cool February day at Howell Y in Atlanta, Georgia. The engineer of CSX train L694 has his window open as he starts to guide his train back to Union City after working at Howell's yard. The locomotive in the lead, a General Electric Dash 8, is a true workhorse, built in 1993. Now, back in October 2025, I made a video about how CSX had reactivated some of the oldest General Electric units on its roster. Well, it seems locomotives like CSX's Dash 9s may soon be getting an upgrade, while others could be replaced entirely with new engines. But CSX is not the only company spending money to modernize its fleet. Coming up, we'll talk about 4 railroads that have placed orders totaling hundreds of millions of dollars for new and rebuilt locomotives. All that and more is next. The first new locomotive order we'll discuss was placed by CSX. Wabtec, which now owns GE Transportation, will be providing the railroad with its newest locomotives. The manufacturer builds units in 2 places. Its facility in Erie, Pennsylvania dates way back to the 1910s. And for decades, it's turned out both electric and diesel locomotives for foreign and domestic markets. The company also operates a much newer facility in Fort Worth, Texas. It opened in 2013. Now, in a February 9th, 2026 press release, CSX said its deal with Wabtec was worth $670 million. It will include 50 modernized locomotives, 100 new Evolution Series locomotives, and a suite of digital services and solutions. In its press release, CSX said the Evolution Series locomotives will, quote, support CSX's fleet by improving fuel efficiency, tractive effort, and overall reliability. Now, the press release was unclear what variant of the Evolution Series CSX will be purchasing. The same announcement on Wabtec's website shows an ET44AH. This series of locomotive is Wabtec's latest offering. GE started rolling these out in 2012. They meet the Environmental Protection Agency's Tier 4 emission standards. You can identify these ET44s by the huge cooling system at the rear of the unit. As part of the deal, CSX said it would also be modernizing aging D9 locomotives. Presumably, D9 refers to GE Dash 9 locomotives CSX has on its roster. And the Dash 9s on CSX's roster are fairly unique. They're more like pre-production Dash 9s. In the 1990s, locomotives in this series were produced as 4,400 horsepower Dash 8s. But CSX now designates these as CW40 Dash 9s. They were eventually derated to 4,000 horsepower. And a little more than 50 of these were built for CSX. In addition to updated software and internals, these engines got an updated cooling system that would eventually be added to the Dash 9 series of GE locomotives. The Dash 9s are a bit longer than the Dash 8s and ride on updated trucks. As part of the Wabtec order, the modernized Dash 9s will have their direct current traction motors swapped out for motors using alternating current. AC motors provide better adhesion, less wheel slip. They're also more reliable, simpler, more rugged, and more efficient than DC motors. And if you didn't already know, locomotives use diesel engines to power electric traction motors to turn their wheels. Now, CSX says the improvements made to these older engines will, quote, extend service life, improve fleet standardization, and enable the use of advanced control and diagnostic technologies with expected improvements in fuel efficiency, tractive effort, and reliability. CSX has already rebuilt many of its AC-powered engines, including EMD ST70 Max and GE AC 4400s. Also part of this deal with Wabtec are digital services that CSX says will, quote, support more efficient locomotive operations. Both the new and upgraded locomotives will be equipped with Wabtec's Trip Optimizer system. Think of this like an autopilot for a train. Its main benefit is touted as being an increase in fuel efficiency. CSX says it'll see deliveries of the new Evolution Series locomotives in 2026 with deliveries of the rebuilt Dash 9s starting in 2027. For many years now, another East Coast railroad has been hard at work rebuilding its GE Dash 9s. But at the beginning of 2026, Norfolk Southern also announced it would be ordering new locomotives from Wabtec. In a January 22, 2026 press release, NS said it would be buying 40 ES44 ACs. GE started rolling out locomotives in this series back in 2002. Norfolk Southern says its engines will be delivered during the second half of 2026. The delivery and final preparations will take place here at Norfolk Southern shops in Chattanooga, Tennessee. The railroad says these new locomotives will feature reduced emissions, enhanced reliability, better fuel efficiency, and more crew comfort. The price tag for all this was not mentioned in the press release. For years, Norfolk Southern has been working with Wabtec to convert its DC traction motor Dash 9s into units featuring AC traction. Of course, the story involving Norfolk Southern that's making headlines does not involve new locomotives. It's actually the merger or takeover by Union Pacific. But in the midst of all that, in fact, before it was even announced, UP had been upgrading its fleet. And that upgrade is costing them big money. According to a February 4th, 2026 press release, its locomotive modernization deal with Wabtec is costing $1.2 billion. Union Pacific says this is, quote, the largest locomotive modernization agreement in rail industry history. Instead of converting its DC traction units to AC, the railroad will be modernizing its existing AC units, specifically its GE AC 4400s. These date back to the mid-1990s and early 2000s. The deal builds on a 2022 order with Wabtec that's supposed to be finished sometime in 2026. According to UP, this 2026 deal will increase the service lives of the locomotives and help improve fleet standardization. The railroad went on to say that the rebuilt locomotives will gain 14% in tractive effort, 80% reliability improvement, and a 5% reduction in fuel consumption. Deliveries will start in 2027. Now, you've probably seen some of Union Pacific's recent rebuilds on the rails. They feature an updated paint scheme. Gone are the wings on the front of the engine. In their place, the UP shield. The American flag was also moved from the hood to the nose. Now, Wabtec is not the only American locomotive builder. In a January 21st, 2026 press release, Canadian Pacific Kansas City, or CPKC, announced it would be purchasing new units from both Progress Rail and Wabtec. The ongoing multi-year deal is worth a total of $800 million. Progress Rail said it would manufacture 65 new EMD ST70 ACE Tier 4 units for the railroad. 30 of these are slated to be finished in the second half of 2026. This model of locomotive was released back in 2016. It saw EMD move away from two-stroke diesel engines and onto larger four-stroke engines. Currently, Union Pacific is the only Class 1 railroad operating these. Final assembly of EMD units happens at a large facility in Muncie, Indiana. Of course, locomotives made by General Motors' Electromotive division used to be wildly popular. And older units still are in certain use cases, like on short-distance locals, in yard service, and on short-line railroads. But GE, now Wabtec, currently dominates the long-haul locomotive market. Progress Rail, a subsidiary of Caterpillar, now owns what's known as Electromotive Diesel. Now, CPKC bought 100 Tier 4 Evolution Series locomotives from Wabtec in 2025. The railroad expects the delivery of 70 more in 2026. They'll be built in Fort Worth, Texas. Like the new locomotives being purchased by the other railroads we've already talked about, these are intended to be more reliable and more fuel efficient than older models. All the locomotives we've talked about in these orders are high horsepower, 6-axle, long-haul road switchers. Alright, you may be wondering, could these railroads just reactivate some of the engines sitting in dead lines like these? Well, it's hard to say what kind of condition these units are in. It's very possible that many of these have been picked for parts to keep other engines running. And most of the locomotives down here won't be as powerful, efficient, or feature the newer electronics that the new units have. That being said, locomotives can last a very long time. Replacements for the smaller, less powerful engines used in yard and local service haven't been available in decades. Here, railroads rely on older locomotives, many of which have been rebuilt at least once. Now, if you want to learn more about the types of locomotives out there and how to identify them, take a look at the video I'm including in the end screen. Anyway, that's it for now. I'd encourage you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.